Hey guys, Ro here. Today I'd like to talk a little bit on the topic of crisis. Um, now, I work in community mental health and also from experiencing my own crisis, specifically 10 years ago today, um, I wanted to talk about a few sort of common elements that come up in dealing with your own personal crisis. Now, it looks similar for a lot of people. It could be maybe a panic attack or a loss of control, a sense of defeat, maybe. It could be a mental breakdown. Um, we can label it in different ways, but it shares the characteristics of chaos. It can feel like a storm or an emotional whirlwind or turmoil, however you want to describe it. And I think that there's not a one size fits all approach. I know it's a little bit different for everybody as far as our own personal story and our personal journey of recovery, um, which is unique to each of us. So, being that life is a lifelong process of healing and transformation, um, I think one of the main things to do if you find yourself in a crisis is to consider first and foremost safety. So, uh, if you're in harm's way or you're so disturbed that you might hurt somebody else or maybe you might destructively act out towards yourself, again, depending on what it is, it could be an anger outburst or something. But if you're in the middle of a situation that is too crazy or overwhelming to handle, how to remove yourself from that situation without causing further damage to yourself or to somebody else. So again, safety is the number one thing, and for some people, reaching out for help might mean calling somebody up right then and there. It could mean going to the hospital or calling 911 or 211, the crisis line. So anyway, in the moment, the hard part is you're already probably past the point of rational thinking. And so when somebody's really distressed, they can be impulsive. So I think the next thing to consider after safety is it's called STAR as the acronym. So stop, think, and respond. So stop, think, and respond to what's happening. So remove yourself from the situation, but don't refrain from acting out further, because when you have such negative energy, it can really be harmful. And so you want to avoid acting impulsively. So stop, think, and respond means just identifying what you're feeling, give it a name. So find out what is it. Do I need to go and lay down in isolation? I mean, but first you're identifying the problem, right? So you can say, I'm having a midlife crisis, or I'm angry, or I'm upset, or I'm offended, or whatever it is. Then you figure out, once you've identified it, you can figure out what you need to do, right? So what's going to help me through this right now? So before I get to what we need to do, so just in identifying it, what's happening is you're observing what you're going through. Now, feel free to observe your negative emotions and your thoughts without judging them. So without condemning yourself. You might feel bad or think that, I'm bad or whatever it is that you're thinking. We're adding an internal dialogue. So a lot of the times, we experience an event that we consider bad, but on top of that, we have our own interpretation of reality, right? So in that internal dialogue, there is an inner critic, which might be saying, the whole world is against me, or, why am I so stupid, or how can this happen to me? And so to observe ourselves without judging or condemning is crucial to getting through that experience. Um, if in that moment we give up on ourselves, then it's going to be hard for us to move on in life. And so once we observed it without any impulsive action, and you just uh, sit with where you're at, then you can start to think, what do I need to do? So the problem is not an emotion. The problem is, how do we channel the emotions? Um, so again, in that moment, it might be, I need to cry, or I need to talk to people. I need to call somebody. Maybe I need to work out and let my anger out through exercising. or you know, it could be a number of things that you know that's going to help you in your own well-being. It could usually that involves slowing down, taking care of yourself, exercising good self-care, and just taking responsibility for finding a way to get back on that lifelong journey of recovery. So when considering what we need to do, the way we're going to move forward is by being present to where we're at. And the only way to be present, really, is to let go of past hurts. And I know we're all a little wounded because we're all human and we're all vulnerable. And so I think it's key to acknowledge then that we cannot change the past. And so when you've experienced a crisis episode, to know that it's a sunk cost. You know, we cannot rewind time. You can't undo whatever harm that's been done. And until we're able to cut our losses and say, it is what it is, but now I'm going to move from now on, until that moment, we're going to be stuck in this cycle of regret. And so we have to remember that success is always just slightly ahead of regret. And so in order for us to shift our point of view, it helps to remember that whatever pain and suffering we're going through, really that reference is just going to serve us later. So whatever pain you're experiencing is going to serve later as a reference. So there's no greater teacher than personal experience. So that experience that you have is a reference to avoid this kind of harmful situation in the future. So whatever goes wrong, it's actually fueling your wisdom. In other words, regardless of what's happened, it's going to give you good judgment next time. So whatever pain you're going through will serve you later, because good judgment comes from this kind of experience, because this kind of crisis experience usually is a result of poor judgment. And so we have to remember that with experience comes good judgment. So when you screw up, use that as fuel for your own wisdom. Now, it's hard to really say what's going to help each of us really experience a sense of well-being after we've had a crisis. The best thing to do is just to take it one day at a time, and like any program suggests, you know, just stay in the present moment, take it one day at a time, and remember the story of the tortoise and the hare, because sometimes when we run around like crazy trying to fix our lives, we just kind of go around in circles. You know, our negative thoughts, you know, feed into our negative emotions, and that causes negative behaviors, and then the behaviors reinforce our negative thoughts, which continue to perpetuate negative emotions and negative behaviors, etc. So to break that cycle, we really have to be like the tortoise and just walk a nice, slow, steady path, to never give up on ourselves, to ask forgiveness, maybe forgive ourselves or somebody else for the harm that's been done. And until we can really forgive and let go, until then, you know, it's hard to be receptive to that learning that we talked about, that's going to give us a better understanding of how to live a more fulfilled life in the future, how to live a life of meaning and of joy, despite the things that can really challenge us. I know that struggles in life can strike us, and of course, I never wish that on anybody, but I think it's good to plan ahead, because those things can be a part of life, and if we never talk about it, then, you know, we never know how to you know, kind of navigate those situations. And so I think the key lesson is to expect the best in life, but plan for the worst. So it's just a kind of a start to a longer conversation about how to deal with crisis. And there's so many techniques out there. There's CBT, you know, there's all kinds of therapy approaches, but basically, you know, there is a mind, body, and soul connection there, and so we want to respect that balance and harmony that we need, and also to remember that wise mind is basically a balance between your rational mind and your emotional intelligence. So just stay tuned, listen to your inner gut feel, because it usually speaks to us a lot louder than with our ears. So thanks for watching, and have a good day. God bless.